to Cross on your. Well, we finished it. We just finished Cross on your recommendation last week.
You're further than we are.
You haven't finished it? We watched it because you told us to.
I know, but that's the problem. We have like this amount of time to watch anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we watch stuff at like 20 minutes at a clip. So
we didn't do shit this weekend. So that's what we were just like, we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. It was just the two of us all weekend. I actually watched more TV than I have in a long time. So like Thursday when you asked me about going to the club, like Parker wanted to watch Elf. And I talked to, and I was just like, man, I can't leave. Like, I haven't had a night just home with Parker and Becky. Told them we were going to watch a movie. I'm going to stay home and watch a movie with my kid. So we did that Thursday. And then Friday, I read the book that I was talking about. And then we watched a couple episodes across. And then like Saturday, we just like binged the rest of it.
Nice.
Like, I think we watched 4 episodes on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, got done with all my workout here and went to the gym and all that stuff. And it was like, at like 7 o'clock, I'm like, let's turn it. And we just sat there and just watch it till it was over.
As for what we've seen, it's been really good. I don't know how it finishes up, but what we've seen, it's been really good.
Oh, there's some twisty turns at the end there.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Anyways,
so what is the name again? Self-Reliance?
Self-Reliance. The lead's name is Jake Johnson. Is an actor that you would 100% know. Maybe don't recognize the name, but when you saw him, you would know who he is.
Janet knows who he is.
I know Jake.
You know him personally?
Mm-hmm.
Andy Samberg's in it. Anna Kendrick's in it. The woman that plays Stevie Budd in Schitt's Creek is in it. It's a phenomenal movie.
Huge, like those are some big names. How have I never even heard of this?
It's a great movie. So it is. The concept is like Most Dangerous Game, like hunting humans. That idea.
Yeah.
So it's Jake Johnson plays a downtrodden individual who gets approached by a group of millionaires to play this game, and they get to hunt him. But the rule is, if he can make it 30 days, he gets $1 million. But they get to hunt him, but they cannot kill him if he's with somebody. But he doesn't have anybody in his life, right? So that's the whole thing of this movie is he's like trying to get people to hang out with him.
I've seen this.
It's hilarious.
It's not new. I've seen this.
It's just came out in 2024.
2023, it says. I'm looking at it.
Oh, well, it's on Hulu. It says 2024. So
yeah. Becky and I watched it. As soon as you said the thing about they have to be with somebody else.
Yeah.
It was funny. Have seen it. Very good. That came out last year.
Oh, okay. Well, we just found it. So
yeah, good one.
Yeah,
actually, here I see what. So it says 2023, but it says release date January 3rd, 2024 in the US. So it's been out for almost a year. About.
Okay.
Self-Reliance, Terry. It's called
Self-Reliance. Shit. Hold on a second. I got to figure this out.
Sorry, and I'm answering a quick Sketchfest emergency.
There we go.
Emergency. I got to remember. I got to bring up a text from Allison.
Is that what I want? Maybe that'll work. See if that's what I want.
Make sure I have that up. Okay. And I'll give that information to Erica. Anything else going on? We're going to start this show.
Yeah, look, Michelle made sure that there was batteries in the Zoom.
Oh, how about the smoke detector?
It's the thing's closed.
Good. Why are all smoke? So I was just replacing some batteries in my smoke detectors the other day because usually I do it when the clocks change. And like, why are they always all yellowed like that? Like, no one has ever smoked in my house, but all of our smoke detectors look like that. And then if you take it off, I guarantee if you take that off the wall, the back of it's like white, like ivory white.
Probably.
Like,
you watch me almost fall over?
I don't know why they discolor like that. It's crazy.
There was a battery though. I checked it.
JB's handling them. Every time you change your clocks, you should change your battery, Zach.
You change your clock?
Like a month ago.
Oh, I don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
My shit just changes.
Right. Nobody has to change their clock anymore.
So far, my phone changes, my alarm clock changes, and my car changes all on its own.
Yeah. J-Mac points out the 10-year battery smoke detectors are required. I remember when those came out because I was on the fire department and I had wrote a grant where we got like 1,000 smoke detectors and we went out and gave them for free to people, installed them in people's houses. And I remember because we've always pushed like through the fire department, like twice a year you should change the batteries or smoke detector. And like, what do you do with these? They say the batteries are good for 10 years. And I was like, yeah, but like they only made these batteries last year. So I don't know how they know they're going to last 10 years. So I guess we'll see in a couple of years if they actually last 10 years or not. I just put
All right, I'm good.
You good?
Yeah, sorry.
All right, Zach, are you ready to make an intro
Yeah.
to a podcast? All right.
Yeah,
so
I am.
We're going to go ahead and end this pregame show. Hey, pregamers, thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for participating. Sorry about Janet and I's very serious conversation. It's probably good Zach wasn't there because he would have been even more uncomfortable than us.
Oh,
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. You should be glad you missed it.
Good.
But I feel like we should go out. We should have gone out. Did you stop it already?
Nope.
We should go out the way we went in.
Oh,
Bye, pre-gamers!
That was so much.
And that's the end.
I mean, you could have said something too, but whatever.
Well, it just sounded too great when you gave the new
Hung out to
jingle.
dry there.
And then Zach just said that was so much.
And
perfect.
it was.
All righty, guys. Let's get this show on the road. You ready to record, Janet?
It.
And
Yep.
Zach? Everybody's got it. You get to clap this week, Zach.
Zach! Are
Hey,
you
I pushed the
ready?
button.
I pushed the button.
I pushed the button.
Which? Should I be pushing the button?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Is your
Well, I
button
have.
is your light red, Zach, and the little timer's going like it's
It is.
recording?
It is.
Okay. So Zach, I don't know if you don't know how to do this, but I say 1, 2, 3, and then we clap.
Clap on 3.
No, right after 3. 1, 2.
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
God,
I'm
you
so
just
sorry.
ruined Erica's whole
I'm
day.
so sorry, Erica. I'm so sorry.
You better send her an email and tell her it's not the first clap. I'm a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Sorry, Erica.
Oh. I was nervous. I'm like sweaty. I'm all nervous.
I know it's a big clap.
Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday follow-up for Season 16, Episode 2, where Bob was joined by the host of the Guilt podcast, Ryan Wolf. Bob and Ryan discussed Ryan's podcast as well as had a really good discussion about the ethics in podcasting. Today, I'm joined by Bob and Janet, and the three of us are here to answer your listener questions. But before we get into that, we have a quick update regarding our Season 6 case and Sandy Melgar.
Nope. Go back to sorry. You missed this conversation. But before we do that, we have some quick housekeeping.
But before we do that, we have some quick housekeeping.
All right. Yeah. So I just wanted to talk to you guys real quick about the schedule going forward. It's getting to be the holiday. So I want to make sure you guys know what's coming up. We have an episode in 2 days, and that is the last main episode before our Christmas break. We take 1 week off for Christmas every year this year. So the episode you guys are going to hear on Sunday is with the amazing Molly, who is a listener who I sat down with. I've already recorded it, sat down with her last week. She is, like I said, it wasn't so much somebody that was arguing Jody's guilt, but somebody who was really on the defense or on the fence and had some certain points that she wanted to talk to that she was uncomfortable with the case. She came on. We had a really nice, very pleasant conversation. Molly was great. So that episode is going to come out on Sunday, and then we're going to be off. Or then, well, we're going to have a follow up next week. So we'll have a follow up to that, and then we're off for a week. So there won't be a main episode next week or a follow up next week for Christmas. So then the next episode you'll hear after next week's follow up will be on, I believe, the 29th will be our next main episode. So just want to give you guys a heads up about that. And with this episode, we kind of, anytime we do these interview episodes, there's not a whole lot of very specific questions. So I open this up for anybody, and that'll be kind of anytime we're doing episodes like this, feel free to ask us about anything. And we definitely got some questions that are not at all case or even podcast related, which is great. So always feel free to ask as many questions as you want. But with that being said, first let's go through. We didn't get to do this with the Bob Motto one because we had too many questions. But this one, what do you guys think about the interview with Ryan?
So for me, I really enjoyed you guys talking about like the ethics portion of podcasting and how the idea that the investigation needs to come first before the podcast. You know, And I know that you and I and Janet have all had conversations off the air kind of about this with this current case, this current season we're working on. But it's really nice to hear out in the open that the idea that like this case, the investigation needs to be the priority and not the content, where I think there's a lot of content creators that may not see it that way. So it was really nice to hear you guys talk about that.
Yeah, I love Ryan a lot, and we talked about this in the Patreon pregame a little bit. Janet and I did, but he was the last episode of True Crime Binge. Which, by the way, those episodes are still up for anybody that if you're looking for other things to listen to. There's 100 and some episodes of us interviewing other podcasters about their true crime content. But Ryan was the last one, and when I met Ryan, it was like one of those we just become fast friends like right away because we just even though we're worlds apart. We're cut from the same cloth. We do kind of the same type of work, deal with some of the same struggles. So as soon as I decided, while we're kind of waiting for things to pan out with Jody's case, I wanted to interview some folks that do other good work. Ryan was the first person that popped into my mind. And then, like what you guys heard is like those are the conversations that I just love. Like I would just have with him if I was just sitting down having a beer with him because, he goes through a lot of the same things. And there's like two pieces of this. I've always talked about that, right? It's what we do here really is of investigative journalism, and there's like the investigation part and the journalism part, and like where we're at with Jody's case right now is like amazing from the investigative part. It's terrible for the journalism part because like the journalist, if you can call me that, podcaster, part of me is like I want to tell this story, like I need to get this story out, but I can't.
Right.
But the investigator part is like, but like the mission here is for justice to be served, and that's working on happening. So that's more important. That trumps it. And like Ryan gets that better than most people. I think he's just a great guy.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I agree with everything Zach said. And I also, I did feel a little bit of, I don't want to say envy, but wistfulness just hearing about the kind of great relationship that he's developed with at least one investigator, feeling like that's a nice kind of copacetic like relationship that has enabled everybody to kind of advance forward. There are seasons where maybe there's felt like there's been slightly more cooperation. I'm like struggling to think of a season
where
we've been like, remember how we partnered up with that detective in the police department?
But here's the thing. That stuff is usually happening. I can tell you this. It is happening in this case.
Great.
I just can't talk about it.
That's great to hear. What a fun way to find that out.
You just said it.
Right. I'm not chumming around with Dan McGinnis about this. But like I have like developed in most seasons I have, and in this one in particular, like I have developed a good working relationship with some people involved in the case that is helping me a lot with it, and not on the podcast side because of course none of it can be talked about publicly, but for the investigation side. So like that was like I just so much relate with Ryan when he's going through that. Like he's sitting on some pretty big information about the case. And he's just having to sit there, like it would blow the internet up when he puts out the podcast on it. But he's like, because of his ethics, he's like, that's not the important part. We're going to wait before we do anything.
Well, and I think he said something that really hit the nail on the head, which again, I didn't know coming into podcasting, but as far as this goes, he says, 90% of what you do doesn't end up on the podcast.
For sure.
And it's true. It's true. And I didn't realize it until I got involved with this, but it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Erica's getting a taste of that now as, over the summer, especially when we were out in the field doing a lot of work. It's like there's so much, you guys heard that hour-long episode 1 premiere, which was the result of, 100 hours of us being out in the field and all this stuff that we're doing. And then there's always that, well, there's this, can't talk about that. We got to hold this back because of this. And yeah, so it's definitely about 10% is what you're hearing on the podcast. Ours is a little more so, I think, than most. I wouldn't say it's 90-10 in the case like with Ryan's is because a big part of our process is for the listeners to engage and help. So I put out more information than some others. And also working wrongful convictions is a little different too, because there's more information available like publicly than there is for an unsolved open case like that.
That's a good point. Well, if you don't mind, that actually brings me to a couple of the comments that were left for this particular episode. You mentioned that first opening, very powerful, I thought, episode of this season, and some subsequent conversations we've had since about other people in Benton Harbor who have been affected by this police department. So we definitely have folks who, when you do things like sort of generally talk about winding up the season, or in particular this case, um, people who feel invested in this community are interested to find out. For example, Emma says, is it still a possibility that we might still hear more about the other possible wrongful convictions, unsolved murders, and other injustices in Benton Harbor, like we did earlier in the season?
Yeah, we will. I mean, a lot's happened. So there was just in November. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. There was an election in November, but part of that election was the prosecuting attorney in Berrien County, and Amy Byrd, who was the interim over the summer, did get elected to be the prosecuting attorney moving forward. So now that she's established in that role, I'm hoping to reestablish contact with her office to talk about Richard Perry's case and see where we're at with that. I still have a lot of communication back and forth with Angelique. I'd like to do some more work in Darius's case. And it's kind of like that's part of like where we're at right now. We have Erica's been, I just had her doing some screening last week, and she's doing more, but for cases that are submitted to us, kind of. So we're in that kind of juggling phase, right? So we're like, okay, we need to figure out where we're going next, because that's a process. We have to like file FOIA requests, get documents, read into the case, and all that stuff, while also doing the investigative work we're still doing on Jody's case. And then there's also these other, kind of open ends that we have out there, like Richard Perry and Darius, while at the same time needing to put out content every week for everybody. So like we're kind of juggling all those things right now. I'm not exactly sure the direction we want to go with it. Like how we do that precisely. But it's definitely still on the table. I think that the biggest thing that needs to happen in the city of Benton Harbor, my personal opinion, is they need a change in leadership in the police department. It's been very frustrating. I think I don't know how much of this I talked about last week, but there's been more developments since then. I already have some information, so now I'm trying to see what information that McGinnis is going to claim is available through Benton Harbor. So I filed a FOIA request. I know I did talk about this last week for a dispatch log because now I can't get anything about the case anymore because it's being investigated by the Attorney General's office. So I'm like, I just asked for a list of all incidents from the police department over the period of November 15th and 16th, 2001, because I want to see like what do they put in their log. They again told me we have no dispatch log, that doesn't exist. I personally don't believe that's true, but that's what they told me. So they sent me a list of incidents that just have the report times on them. And so it shows that, there was a homicide at 12:40. Well, that's the time they wrote on the report. It's not an actual like log of when it actually happened. So then I filed a FOIA request and said, I want the same type of list also for the fire department. I want to know what fire calls there were. And they responded and said they have no fire records at all from back then. Now, I've been told by people that work there, by people that worked in dispatch at Benton Harbor at that time, and for several years after that, up until just a few years ago, that have said it's the same system. The same system they gave you those reports from is the same system that has the fire report list. And there's some things I'm working through from the state from that, but that again, every time I file those FOIA requests, it's being handled by, from what I was told when the beginning of this case was that McGinnis himself handles these FOIA requests. So it's like, and I've been told by parties involved, they're like, well, try fire department records because fire department always keeps better records than police. I'm like, same department, they're public safety, same people do the same thing. The fire department records are something that, I want to, because it says in the report or in the trial testimony, if you read the crime scene investigator, McKee, said he was responding to a fire call when he got called to go to the murder scene.
So yeah,
my hunch is perhaps they figured, oh shit, why would he want the fire calls?
Cross-reference.
Yeah, because it's going to be real interesting if that fire call happened at 11 o'clock or 11:30, and then was over with before midnight. Right. So, but now they're claiming those don't exist either. So like it's such a frustrating place to be, because it's like the person that we're trying to figure out if they were responsible for an intentional corruption that led to this is the same person that's controlling the flow of information. So those other cases, it's the same story. It's the same person, the same thing, the same leadership we're dealing with. So in order to help the people of Benton Harbor, I think part of that goal is that leadership needs to change. And the only way that's going to happen is if we can prove through, whether it's through the Attorney General's office, through the Department of Justice, whoever it is, that leadership has to change. So that was a very broad answer to the question, but it's like me continuing to prod at the Benton Harbor Public Safety Department to get more information about these cases right now is a wasted effort, because the same person's behind the helm trying to protect all that stuff from coming out.
Well, hopefully there can be actions from the outcome of this case that could have a longer lasting, bigger impact that would enable you to have access to that information.
That is the hope. And that's,
Hope.
I know there are people that people have all different kinds of opinions and thoughts about this case. And there's even, and like one of the positions are, well, if Jody held a gun to Mario's head a couple days earlier, then we don't care to help Jody. First of all, there's in my opinion, that's very flawed logic, because that means we would be giving a pass to police officers convicting someone of a crime they didn't commit because they think they committed another one, and that's not okay.
Well, that's what they're doing already a lot of the time. So we're just like giving them a pass to do what they're doing.
Right. So I already have a problem with that, but also there's a bigger issue there. If we bring this case to resolution and we're able to prove corruption, that then could open the floodgates to everything else. Think back to the bonus episode we did with
Andrew Collins.
Yeah, Andrew Collins. When he got caught a couple years after this, when he got caught doing the corrupt things he was doing there in this department with these same people, it resulted in a ton of convictions being overturned because he was planting evidence. They were planting evidence on all kinds of people. So it corrected a bigger problem when that happened. So this is so even when we're just focused on Jody's case, it's still casting a broader umbrella over this whole situation.
Well, and one of the things that I also enjoyed about, in bringing it back to what you were saying earlier about your conversation with Ryan, is that idea of people thinking that you finish something and you just move on and it's over. But for those of us who have listened for several seasons, and most of us are longtime listeners, we do know that there are still things happening behind the scenes, not just with the most recent season, but with past seasons as well. And that you are still in contact with people from past seasons, and you're still fighting for them. Certainly that's something that came up for people in follow-up, people wondering if there are any updates to past seasons and some of our past people that we've been fighting for.
Yeah, and I also just want to point out that a couple weeks ago, I thought that I had the best segue of Truth and Justice history. I think what Janet just did right there that had to be the best segue
See
ever.
what I did? I made a braid. I braided the episode with Ryan and the Jody case, and I'm braiding in something else that you're about to talk about now.
Well done. Well done.
Yeah. So along those lines, one of those cases, our season 6 case, was Sandy Melgar. I've been in contact for a couple of years now with the Innocence Project of Texas, who's working on their case. They are really shifting into overdrive with the investigation into Sandy's case. And they have a group of private investigators that are working on the case. They're boots on the ground right now, that are trying to open some doors in there. And as part of that, they changed some contact information for tips on the case, and Liz has upped the reward for the case. So a few years ago, our listeners raised quite a bit of money, and we had a $20,000 reward for any information that leads to the arrest of the person who actually killed Jim Melgar. That number is now up to a $100,000 reward for anyone with any information that will lead to the arrest and conviction of the actual murderer of Jim Melgar. And that is going to be now handled. All tips for that are going to be now handled by this private investigation firm. Now, I'm going to say this information here, but Erica is also going to put in the description of this episode all this contact information. So anyone with any tips on the case can call 1-800-403-8024, extension 801. It's 800-403-8024, extension 801. That's with tips on the Sandy Melgar case. And you can also email in tips to tips@blackfishintel.com. That's tips@blackfishintel.com. Blackfish Intel is the name of the private investigation firm that is now handling the case down in Houston, Texas. So that's a $100,000 reward that's being offered in her case. So that is still progressing, moving forward. Like I said, I've been working with both Mike Ware and Allison Clayton, who we know from Ed's case and Jesse's case, and now is handling Sandy's case as well. So we'll keep you guys updated on that. There's some DNA testing being done in Jesse's case. There's a bunch of DNA that was sent out for more testing there. So that's hopefully we'll have some results from that soon. And then Veronica in our Patreon pregame chat asked, she said, anywho, because we were having a conversation about something else. She said, Lori Davis, that's Damien Eccles' wife, mentioned in an interview recently that there are DNA extraction methods newer than MVAC that she and Damien are also looking into. Do you know about these new methods? I don't know a lot about the methods, but I hinted at this earlier, and we're still like the full information isn't fully released yet, and it's not all set in stone in public. But I can tell you about Damien's case, and Damien, Jesse, and Jason's case, and Stevie, Michael, and Christopher, the 6 of them involved in that case. I think that we are at the brink of moving forward with some really, really good news in that case.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay.
I truly think that we are months away at best at getting our answer, which I'll be, as soon as I can and have the information, I'll be explaining. Actually talked to Lori, had called me about it a while ago, and is going to come on and do like a live with me when all the ducks are in a row and we know exactly what's going on. So we'll share that information. So nothing's set in stone right now, but just know I think we got good news coming, and as soon as all of that is confirmed, then we will be sharing that with you. So there's lots happening right now. Again, with Jesse's case, and with Sandy's case, and with the West Memphis 3 case. So we're still plugging along. And again, as I keep saying, with Jody's case, I think there's going to be a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of people shocked and stunned here within the next few months in Jody's case too.
Great. And
I feel like there's a lot of crying in my future.
Good crying. Good
Me too.
crying.
Yeah.
And shout out to those people who we don't have great updates for at the moment, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming. And we know that, people who are involved in this podcast and listen to this podcast and came in as listeners have become such amazing advocates for people like Jamie Snow. We're going to keep fighting.
Yeah.
And
Pinion
you
Pines
guys are
case,
part
we're
of
still
that.
working on the habeas for the Pinion Pines case. Yeah, there's still a lot more coming.
Great. Okay. Well, that actually brings us also to Janaya, who says she loves her fellow Kiwi Ryan Wolf. And she says the style of investigative reporting is my absolute favorite. Boots on the ground, hearing him search the bush and talk to people. You feel like you're right there. My favorite Truth and Justice episodes are also like this. Bob doing the drive test in Pinion, walking around the Jennifer Jeffley case apartments, David Jacoby interview, and the turtles in the West Memphis 3 doco. Doco, by the way, very cute Kiwi term that I'm going to start using. Would just love to know what have been some of Bob's most memorable in-person / on-location moments in all these years and why. And I would say, I feel that we've heard a lot about Ed Aites because he has been the focus of certain things that have, been out in the public and been made, like Web of Death. And so I feel like, and don't forgive me, everyone, I feel like we've got those. But it might be, and we've talked about them fairly recently, but it might be nice to hear about some of those others. Like Janai was saying, like part of the actual sort of boots on the ground investigation where you're there.
Man, that's a good question. There's so many, like you just mentioned a few of them. For me, it's always about people. Those are the things that are the most memorable to me. Like you mentioned the David Jacoby interview, like like the time spent like earning David's trust to the point where he was willing to sit down and do an interview with me, like walking into, his mom's house and sitting down at the table and talking for hours about the case. Like that was huge. It was a similar situation with Mark Byers during the investigation of the West Memphis Three. Me and Mike and Shane Yoder used to do our music. The three of us, we tracked down John Mark Byers and sat down with him and did a long interview with him too. Um, it's a lot of those, but then a lot of times it's the people. I would say like one of the most memorable moments I have that like was very powerful in the moment. It wasn't something that was captured on audio, so you guys never got to hear it happen. But then in like retrospect, even later, it became even more powerful. Was when I got a hold of Ed's mom, Margie,
Mm.
and I still remember telling her that I'm investigating the case. I believe he's innocent, and we're working on trying to get him out of there. And she just completely broke down and sobbed and bawled and I still remember her screaming, "I knew my baby was innocent. I knew my
Oh,
baby was innocent."
yeah.
Um, like that, like moments like that. Um, and all of it always comes down to even like the Pinion Pines case, which Janet, you got to be a part of. Like we went to like meet and greets and the family was there and, and Robert and Christian's family, and the tears and the gratitude they had for the work that we're doing. Um, Even one that you heard, like the beginning of this case, like when I first met Angelique Bell was another one. That moment, and I hope that's a moment that like sticks with Erica because the first time I met her, that wasn't recorded. Um, we were just standing there talking, but that was like her first day in the field, and when we start, knocking on doors and meeting people, and I hope she like recognizes the like the importance when she started telling me about her son, like the rage and fire in my eyes when that happened, and then like making that connection. So and like those things that like then come back later. So I'm out there investigating Jody's case, and I knock on a door to ask somebody about what the house looked like that used to be across the street. And months later, she's sitting out in my office for 3 hours just talking to me because she was just was down in the area and just wanted to chat because she just appreciates everything that we're doing, stuff like that. And those are the things that, most of you guys know that have known me for a long time. The longer I do this, the less time I spend on social media. Internet
Yeah.
people
Mhm.
have just like, it's getting tougher and tougher to do that because we had a long conversation about this in the Patreon pregame. There's kind of like the negativity and the hate that exists online. But it's like when this job has allowed me to have those real experiences where like the real love and the real kindness and gratitude and like those are the moments that mean the most to me more than anything else. Like if nothing else comes out of this case, then Angelique Bell knows that there's somebody else out there, and now there's thousands of people out there that care about her son.
Mm.
And she has that when she left here. I don't remember if I talked about this on the podcast. When she came here and she sat here and met with me, and so we just chatted. We just chatted for hours about what we can do big picture in the city of Benton Harbor, and just talked. When she left, she asked me if she could take a rock from my landscaping. Janet, you can't cry because you make me cry.
No, I don't even know what you're gonna say. You could say that she wanted to hit you in the face with it, but I know that's not what's coming, so I'm already crying.
No, she just said, can I take one of these rocks with me? And I was like, what? You want a rock? She said, I want a rock. And she just, it's just a little piece of river rock that was from the landscaping outside my office. And she just grabbed it and she just held it and just said, I'm going to keep this rock forever
Mm.
because I got this rock on the day that I sat in your office and we talked about my son's case. So like those, that's what, and also everyone from my wife to my kids to my students asked me, how do you deal with everybody saying the hateful things they say about you on the internet? That's how. Because that all those things people say about me on the internet will never ever be more important to me than Angelique picking up that rock and taking it home with her.
Whew. I really hope you go to the break right then.
Right then. Yeah, Erica, that seems like
you're
a good
gonna
time.
have to give people a chance to like recover from that for a couple minutes.
Seems like a good time to hear from Hello Tushy or whatever the sponsor is this week.
On a lighter note, one of my favorite memories that doesn't involve me is your and Mike's windmill conversation for season 7.
The worst ever. The day we figured out we're not actors.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the
I
air.
don't know the true stories ever come out on that one.
When Mike and I were investigating Jamie Snow's case down in Bloomington, there's those giant windmills all over the place. They're everywhere. And Mike had genuinely he's like, what the hell is with all these windmills everywhere? And I was like, I don't know. There's this. I don't know what these. What the hell is power for? I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing. There's no houses around here. And then we were driving around and we're like, you know what? We should turn the recorder on and capture that. Get that kind of, Sarah Koenig talking to her producer, fly on the wall conversation thing. And we spent an hour trying to recreate that conversation. It's like Mike going, hey, Bob, what's with all these windmills?
Like he's never spoken in English before.
We must have done 50 takes of that, and that made it in the. We ended up putting one of those clips in one of the podcasts, one of the boots on the ground episodes where we're out, and it was a recreation of a real conversation that we're like, I don't know what's all this. So bad.
Oh, no. I'm so glad you brought that up, Zach.
I love that.
Whew.
I love that so much.
I wanted to just quickly, and then we got a couple more things, but I wanted to just quickly mention another podcast that has kind of popped back up into my feed that I had listened to some time ago, but that some news has broken about the main subject of that particular podcast. So they're back in my feed. The Overlooked podcast has covered a Kansas City, Kansas police detective named Roger Golubsky, who helped put a very innocent man named Lamont McIntyre in prison for a murder that he did not commit. Now, then he was arrested. Then the FBI actually got involved because of all of these egregious actions that this cop had taken. The sort of main thrust being actually not as much about innocent people that he helped incarcerate, which he absolutely did, and that is being exposed, but also that he was intimidating and threatening and, trigger warning, indeed raping Black women in the community during his tenure as a cop. It feels very relevant to this season. It just feels very relevant. It's very much a similar situation of a person in power feeling like the community can't stand up for themselves, don't matter, have problems, have histories, have to do things that maybe they wouldn't want to do to earn money, to survive in those kinds of communities. And instead of helping lift those communities up, the authorities just keep pushing them down and exploiting them. And it's a very powerful story. It's very interesting. And it just is sort of a nice dovetail to some of the things that we've been dealing with this season.
Yeah. What was the name of that again?
The Overlooked podcast.
Overlooked. Maybe that's somebody that I can get on the show.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing has happened is that he was arrested and so many people in the community were like, half the people were like, we're not going to get any justice because that's just not how the system works. And then, the other half I'm definitely like just throwing together stats right now when I say that, but people were like, we're finally going to see justice. Well, spoiler, because you'll know this if you look this up or even just look at the most recent episode of this podcast, but like the day he was supposed to show up for his first day of trial, he took his own life. So to me, one of the ways, and they've dismissed the case. So to me, one of the ways to still recognize the pain and the agony that this community has gone through and that people have gone through is to find out about the story and tell people about it and acknowledge it and support that community, because he ain't going to prison.
What's the name of the podcaster?
Her name is Peggy Lowe. I believe it's Peggy. It's definitely Peggy. I think it's Lowe, like Lowe or something. But I'll find it for you.
Yeah, we'll look that up. And I
It's
think
it's in cooperation with like the Midwest NPR office. Like
yeah,
that.
hopefully I'll try to reach out and see if that's somebody that we can get on to talk about it, because that's the type of work that we want to be promoting while
Absolutely.
we're in our kind of lag time between cases.
Great. Sorry, I'm realizing I'm the person that's supposed to keep this going, but I was looking to see if I could tell you the woman's name. All right, we can talk about that offline.
Yeah.
Recommendation there. Chris says, I'm always curious and feel like I'm sure it's common knowledge, but Chris would like to know, what does MVI Studio stand for? And what's the story behind it?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so when I started the podcast, it was just me in my garden shed with my dog shit tire tractor in there. And when we made the shift to, where I left the fire department, decided to do this full time, and was hiring Mike, I incorporated to make this an actual business that I'm running. And when looking for names for the corporation, of course, Becky and I sat down and we're trying to figure out, like, what are we going to call our company? And so there were several things going on at the time. There was me leaving my 15-year career at the fire department to start this new venture. There was us, working on cases to try to give people their lives back. And ultimately what we landed on, the name of my company is New Beginning Incorporated. So we filed so it was New Beginning Incorporated, which didn't quite, is very meaningful to me. And there was more there too. So that this was all just, a couple of years after Becky and I had, we'd both been through divorces and we had remarried. So like there's a whole lot that was going on that was all about the kind of rebooting our lives and restarting things over. So like that name was really meaningful to us for the name of our company. But then, of course, New Beginning Incorporated just didn't really flow off the tongue when you were naming your podcast. So we also filed a DBA. So my doing business as, so New Beginning Incorporated is also known as NBI Studios. So that's where it came from.
I love it.
So it is Peggy Lowe.
Peggy Lowe. I got it.
Peggy Lowe.
Yay.
Yeah, nailed it.
Phew. Thank you, Zach. And then Chris also wanted to know, and this is on the lightest topic of them all for this particular episode, Christmas prizes. Christmas Eve or Christmas morning?
First of all, Chris wins Listener of the Week for calling him Christmas prizes.
Yeah.
Clearly a longtime listener of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll let you guys go first. Janet, what's your family tradition? When do you open?
I'm a big one on Christmas Eve, everything else on Christmas Day, but it's really hard for me. I don't care about which one I open, but trying to pick the one present that, for example, I have Brandon open is very hard because it usually leads to an avalanche feeling where I'm like, just open another one.
Right.
Just open another one.
What about you, Zach?
Ours is whirlwind. So Christmas Eve morning, we go to my dad's house, do presents. Christmas Eve, we go to in-laws, do presents. Christmas morning, we're at home with the boys. Christmas afternoon, we're at the other side of my family. So we got 4 Christmases, baby.
Love it.
Growing up, what was it? Did you guys wait till the morning to open, or did you open anything at night?
Well, my parents have been divorced my entire life, so it was always 2. It was always at least 2, Christmas Eve and Christmas.
Okay. Yeah. So growing up, it was always Christmas morning. My parents did even well beyond. My parents always did the Santa thing. They were like, we would go to bed Christmas Eve with nothing under the tree, and then we would get up in the morning and all the gifts would be under the tree.
That's so fun.
Like that's how they always did it. And my parents always had like special wrapping paper for Santa too. Like they always had wrapping paper for the gifts that are from mom and dad. And then all the Santa gifts had the same wrapping paper.
Hang on. Trigger warning. For people like me that didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Santa had the say. By the way, side note: Red One took Parker to see that last weekend. Fun Christmas movie. Anyway, um, yeah. So, but the thing is, when you get that's what I was asking is like when you were kids, because then when you get married or you partner up with somebody or start living with somebody else, then like those traditions come together.
Yeah.
So with my ex, my kid's mom, Alicia, her family didn't wrap gifts from Santa. So that was always like an argument for us.
Whoa.
Like, yeah, so that when you get up in the morning, all your Santa gifts were just out and not wrapped.
Interesting.
And I hated that.
I know. I'm not. It doesn't. My
So
instinct is immediately to be like, no, that's not acceptable.
that's our house.
You guys
It
do the
is?
unwrapped?
Mhm.
I
Yes.
get it. I get the idea behind it, but for some reason, I'm still
Oh,
like,
there's Chris in the chat now. Hey, Chris. She said Santa doesn't wrap presents.
Santa's busy. Santa doesn't have time to wrap presents or have the elves wrap presents.
Now, as in my elder years, I like the idea because I hate freaking wrapping presents. So
It definitely
it's
saves
easier now.
paper, but
For
I
any
like
of you that
wrapping
have
presents.
young kids, like still Zach has younger kids, wrapping is horrible because they've got a million little, $10 trinkets that you're wrapping. Now my kids are all older, so Christmas is usually like they pretty much have one really big expensive thing that is their thing, and then a couple little things. So it's less wrapping now. But I always hated that growing up because for me, I just remember my childhood and how exciting that was to come out and all the gifts be there in the morning.
Yeah.
So I won that battle with the ex. But what she took from her family tradition that she put when we were together, she kept together was they always opened one Christmas prize on Christmas Eve, but that Christmas prize was always a set of matching pajamas for the whole family.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I could
that
get on board for
everyone would
that.
wear on Christmas morning.
I could get on
I
board
feel like
for
you
that.
guys have something like that. I feel like I've seen you guys in matching pajamas, Zach.
100%
Hard
with the
nog.
dog. Michelle will only buy
Ooh.
pajamas that has a matching dog pajama as well.
Now, do you do those as a gift on Christmas Eve, or do you just have them?
No, we just have them.
Yeah, so that
Got
was
it. It's not part of the gift giving process.
the thing
It's
was
free.
with Alicia's family, it is part of the gift giving process, and they fall for it every year. It was like, all right, guys, you can open up one gift. You can have one gift tonight. They're like,
That's so
yay! And they're like,
funny.
here it is. And then they open it and they're like, God damn it, pajamas! Why did I not remember their pajamas?
And shout out to those of you who don't celebrate Christmas. Thanks for putting up with all of your friends who talk about Christmas, just like we're doing right now. I have
Absolutely.
a lot of friends who don't celebrate Christmas, who have their own traditions. And this happens to be a podcast. There are 3 people who celebrate Christmas are on it. But rest assured, you ain't the only ones out there who don't. And there's nothing wrong
Oh,
with it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's really our only Christmas tradition. The other thing that in our elder years that I've enjoyed is like what Zach was talking about, the 4 Christmases thing. Like we always did that too. So we had, my parents and Becky's parents and it's like everybody's bouncing around. After we turned 40, we just had this like epiphany one time. We're like, we're grown. We have our own family and our own house. So we're just going to do our thing here. And people can come if they want. Now that's turned into there's a whole shitload of people in my house all the time now,
Yeah.
which is fun for about 2 hours. And then, but yeah, so like we stopped doing that. We're like, listen, if y'all want to come, if you want to see us at Christmas, come here. Otherwise, this is where we're at. And
Yeah.
we've also stopped doing the big Christmas dinner because for a while there we would host like a big Christmas dinner for everybody. And we're just like, man, so now our tradition is we do our big thing in the morning or Christmas prizes, and then we order Chinese food for dinner.
There you
All
go.
right. I'm going to put you on the spot. When the hell are you bringing back the rough Christmas party?
Oh, that stopped during COVID, and we just never brought it back.
There were themed Christmas parties. It was wonderful.
I think we did 7 of them.
Yeah. There was a 80s one. There was a white trash one. There was a bunch of them.
I love this.
There was the Griswold Christmas one,
How fun.
which for that one, I did my house like the Griswolds.
Amazing.
I spent a month out putting
God.
20,000 lights all over the entire roof. Every inch of my house was covered with lights.
I hope you have pictures of that.
And we got a 10-foot tall tree for our 8-foot tall ceiling. Like when you came in, it was a giant tree that was bent over the ceiling, just like the Griswolds.
obviously no one knows what I'm talking about, but between my house and where I work, there is a Griswold set up house with the car in the front yard with light strung from the car to the house. Like the wood paneled
Yeah.
station wagon. Yeah. Out in the front yard with lights strung from that to the house. I'm so excited.
That's fun. Yeah, we didn't go quite that far, but I did spend way too much. And by the way, when I started taking those lights down, I started trying to like organize them, and I finally was like, you know what? I'm never doing this again. I bundled up in a big giant ball and threw them in the recycle bin. I was like, I'm done. I had armloads of these Christmas lights were all tangled up and bulbs were out and everything. I'm like, I'm done.
I just want you to know this is obviously it could be an off the air, but I'm just gonna put it out there. You know, our wives have matching Christmas sweaters this year, right?
Adorable.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
not
I need
adorable.
pictures of
What
that.
do they say?
I don't remember, but it's not appropriate, whatever it is.
Yeah, they have some dirty language on them, I'm sure,
Yeah.
knowing our wives.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. We talked about it. This is what happened. Becky and I, we moved out here in the country. And at first we were like, man, we miss, going out and hanging out with everybody at the bar on the weekends and seeing everybody doing that. And then COVID happened. And it was like during that pandemic, we realized like, you know what? I really kind of just like hanging out here with each other and not leaving. And so like, that's pretty much what we do. So,
Got it.
so every time we're like, we can have a Christmas party, but then there's a bunch
Yeah,
of people
like,
here.
but
then
we
gotta
could also
entertain.
not have a Christmas
Right.
party.
We could, or we could
Yeah.
just pop open a bottle of bourbon and put a movie on and just hang out.
That's the slippery slope. It's very tempting. Oh, Meredith, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to. I skipped a question, and we're wrapping up. We're done. We actually went a little bit longer than I thought we would, considering. But Meredith said, did you and Bob Mata ever discuss the reply brief series on Adnan's case? You did not, and I don't know that it's necessary.
We did. Not on the air.
Exactly.
We did, and I don't want to speak for Bob, but I think anybody that follows Bob knows his opinion of that the show I was replying to since then. But yeah, Bob and I have had that conversation. Zach was there. Yeah, we've had that conversation.
Yeah. But it's true that was kind of a dangling thread. And for those of you who are curious about it, it certainly isn't that like Mata refused to or anything like that. It's just as things kind of came together, it happened that it didn't make sense because Bob was not going to sit there and argue with Bob Ruff.
Right.
Because he agrees.
And it's got to a point where it was like the information's out there. And then, and you could see the people who are open-minded either way. You can see the people who have got their heels dug in on either side. Dragging it back up again is not where everybody's going to listen to it and they'll have their own opinions on it. And I think it sounds like that's all we got for tonight.
That's it.
Yeah. Some holiday talk. We got all kinds of interesting stuff. All right. So that's it. Make sure that you guys, again, this Sunday, tune in for my conversation with Molly. I just want to tell you, I'm just so pleased with the conversation. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before about how people in real life can be kind. Molly and I we've tangled on the fan page here and there and argued about stuff here and there. And we got together on the stream. The patrons got to watch it live on the video stream portion of it. And just had such a, not agreeing on everything, but just had a really pleasant conversation, which is what I was always hoping for when we brought somebody on that shared a different perspective. So make sure you tune into that on Sunday. And again, we'll have that follow up next Friday. And then we're taking a week off for the holiday. And then we'll be back on the 29th. So tune in Sunday. We'll talk to you guys next week. We love y'all. And we'll see you then.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Okay. Hit stop on your record.
Boom. Done. I done doed it.
You done doed it.
I done doed it.
And so all you guys that are here now, when you listen this week, and it sounds like Janet is talking 7 seconds ahead of the rest of us, that's because of her clowny clap that she did at the beginning of.
I forgot about that.
It will have ramifications that bleed out into the rest of the episode.
Well, how funny would it be if she did miss it, and the whole time everybody's like, "Why is Janet always talking over everybody? She's talking, or they're talking, Lord. And she's talking. She never responds when they ask her questions."
Yeah, immediately regretted that joke clap. Immediately.
It's all fun and games. All right, well, thanks, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm gonna go inside. It's before 9 o'clock by 30 seconds, and Tell Brandon that we love him. We
I
miss him.
will.
And also, by the way, speaking of our conversation we had in the pregame, like, what at some point in the summertime, you guys just need to come out here for a
I
week.
know. Oh,
Just have a vacation.
within
We've
the
never
like,
hung out when we're not
I know,
working.
I know. And by the way, Zach, the very first thought I had, like, when thoughts happen so fast that you're like, oh my God, how did I play out that entire scenario in my head in like a split second? Was
Yeah.
the idea of them bringing the Christmas party back and like me and Brandon knocking on the door and you being like,
Yes.
what? Like you and me
Oh my
keeping a
gosh.
secret from Bob.
We just kick
That'd be
everybody
so
else out.
That'd be
amazing.
so fun.
That'd be so good.
So when you get tomorrow, you'll probably be getting an email from my friend Amy.
Okay.
So remember that's coming, and I'll just let you guys figure out how y'all are gonna
Great.
handle that.
And
But
I
thank you so
texted
much
you
for doing
that
that.
show, that Overlook show. Of course.
Excellent. All right. We're gonna end the stream. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you too. Love you guys. We'll talk
Love
to
you
Love you guys.
guys.
later.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
And boom.